All right. Thank you so much for your help, Elena. I am Derek Lee. I'm from Phoenix, Arizona, and I'm in the Arizona group here. And I wanted to share with you this kind of conglomeration of the neurological effects of belief and believing. Most people don't see the destructive nature of believing and belief or understand the negative effects neurologically in the brain because of them. So how are these destructive and negative influences affecting the brain? What are the genetic factors that influence the human being from belief systems and the predispositions that inherently get handed down through the gene pool? So since we have become aware and understand the causes of religious cults, sects, and the irrational beliefs that accompany them, and we understand that it is through logical cognition alone that brings forth understanding and the ability to recognize the truth, we can now perceive the life through the right kind of thing, which is, of course, of a positive neutral kind. Through ascertain a very bad getting out of control of the good human nature and gavalt of all kinds, since time immemorial, the human beings have degenerated in their thinking, became dependent on their own limited beliefs that they have formulated themselves or that they have subscribed to through religious or sectarian beliefs. Logical and rational thoughts were bypassed and replaced by illogical assumptions and beliefs that remained ambiguous, unsubstantiated fantasy, and delusion-based thinking. That holds no responsibility to itself, but places all responsibility on outside things, for example, gods, saints, angels, idols, etc. So these beliefs eventually formulated an atrophy in the brain, as it has been explained in the book Arahat Atharsata, that has devastating effects. This atrophy, which is an actual disorder, can then be handed down genetically through the gene pool, creating genetic predispositions in the human being, which automatically sculpt and shape his or her thinking towards systems of believing and belief. The physical attributes within the brain neurologically as an effect of belief are tragic and detrimental to the brain and the overall well-being of the human being's consciousness, physiological structure, as well as his or her psyche. There are also factors that apply that are due to the genetics that have to do with the alteration of the aging gene that plays a decisive role, with the Earth humans, in that our aging is 10 times faster than it is naturally supposed to be, according to the Plieran. Cognition equals conclusive knowledge. Knowledge of the truth of reality has a conclusiveness that one can always depend on without doubt, because reality is firmly based on brazen creational natural laws that are uniform for all times. Belief and doubt are ambiguous, not conclusive. Belief, however, is not conclusive and not grounded with anything substantial. That is, anything with substance. Belief is plagued with doubt. So with these tools, we can utilize them to identify belief content through self-analysis, empty oneself from belief, learn how to recognize the truth of reality through cognition, change our thinking to a positive neutral form through conscious effort using might-orientated thinking. See the psyche. 122 on, there's some interesting insights regarding using might-orientated thinking. So how does belief and believing impact the consciousness and the psyche? And what are the effects of belief in the brain? So here's an excerpt from Talmud Emmanuel, LXXII, for my lack of knowing Roman numerals. Here's an explanation from Bataille. I kind of brought it in mid-sentence. So with regard to a religious or even religious sectarian belief, that this affects the genes, and from this side acts so strongly on the decisive temporal lobe that the belief cannot be acted against. The once established belief exerts such a compelling power over intellect and rationality that these are simply immobilized and rendered inoperable. This means that the human being, if he or she has fallen prey to a religious belief, is no longer master of his or her senses with regard to decision-making ability concerning the belief and all its connections. Thus, no thought-based or intellect or rationality can be maintained anymore because of the belief. With regard to this itself, as well as regarding all of that which is connected with it, because the religious belief makes the human being extensively biased and its slave. Consequently, he or she moves unconsciously at every moment in his or her belief, namely with underlying anxiety in case he or she thinks or does something against his or her belief. And if corresponding feelings also arise from the unconscious thoughts of anxiety, then the human being gets bogged down even more in his or her belief and finds no way to free him or herself from it. Thus, he or she is not able to act in accordance with the given truth because belief can hold his or her thoughts and feelings by force. I thought that was extremely tragic. Here's what's going on in the brain. The temporal lobe can be divided into two sections. Okay, we got the neocortex, sometimes referred to simply as the temporal lobe, lateral and inferolateral surfaces. And then two, the Messiah temporal lobe, sometimes referred to as the limbic node, including the hippocampus and the amygdala and the parahippocampus. And so, sorry, I didn't know how to say that right. Purpose of the right temporal lobe and the purpose of the left temporal lobe. So here's some stuff here. Purpose of the right. The non-dominant lobe, which is typically the right temporal lobe, is involved in learning and remembering nonverbal information, visuospatial material, and music. The left temporal lobe, mainly responsible for recognizing, memorizing, and forming speech. And it went on to say patients with epileptic focus in the medial limbic emotional part of the temporal lobe most often have complex partial seizures in the form of uncontrolled emotions, autonomic, cognitive, and emotional dysfunction. So I wanted to go and jump to chapter 19 of the Talmud, page 308. And this gets really interesting regarding the brain, starting from a child's mode of thinking. So it came to pass that some disciples and disciplesses stepped up to Emmanuel and asked, "Who is the greatest in the consciousness?" 1. Emmanuel called a child to him and placed the youth in their midst. And he said, "Truly I say to you, unless you turn yourself around and become like the children, you will not be great in the consciousness." And they used the word spirit, of course, because they didn't have that word consciousness yet. 3, those who research and search, and those who gather cognitions and thirst for the knowledge like this child, will be great in the spirit consciousness. Those who research and search for the truth and find it like such a child will always be the greatest within themselves. So I wanted to share with you a little bit of why that is so. And it came to neuroplasticity. And here's the definition: the ability of the brain to form and reorganize synaptic connections, especially in response to learning or experiencing or following injury. Children are neuroplastic, meaning very flexible in their thinking and open-mindedness. Their cup is virtually empty of knowledge, which makes them very eager to learn and adapt quickly to knowledge and new situations or experiences.
Couple of weeks from the teaching. You should come listen. Come watch.
Adults
How you
tend to
want to do
become,
it?
I'm sorry?
There's a time for questions after.
Adults tend to become stiffened and rigidly, inflexible and hardened unless continuous exercising takes place. And that, when I say that, I mean, meditating and using the teaching. So emptying the cup, as you yourselves are responsible for all and everything, you must free yourselves from all senseless belief teachings. This is from the Goblet of the Truth. Forget every imaginary God, godly coercion for atonement, and set yourselves a culmination point in the truthfully truth, so that you humankind of earth, strive only for this culmination point and cast away and dissolve every belief. From the Goblet of the Truth, page 465. Since belief and believing lie at the root cause and effects of an atrophy created in the human brain, the human being must find it necessary from one's own volition to search in the depths of oneself and examine what kind of thinking is there. And like cleaning a room full of clutter, everything must be put in its place, and unnecessary junk must be thrown away, so that there's a lot of meaning to the old saying, one cannot fill a full cup. It's a metaphoric statement that the cup must be emptied so that the cup can then be filled with the truth. So if the cup is full, empty it. If the cup is empty, fill it. Hence the goblet of the truth. Belief does not bear fruit. Within the teaching of creation energy, responsibility lies at the first position of action for the human being to take up for themselves. This starts with the thinking and the creational wise, which is using the positive neutral thinking and also complete self-honesty thinking as a constructive part of our everyday life, moment by moment, free from the use of belief of any kind. So what can be done consciously against the effects of beliefs of all kinds? Here's another excerpt from the Talmud. Billy, that is to be understood. He's talking with Bata, but I would still like to say something regarding the religious and sectarian beliefs. But what I say also applies to other forms of belief, a religious, sectarian, or other belief with regard to anything that can very well be reduced and ended if it is approached in such a way that belief contents are considered and analyzed consciously and neutrally. This means that if the human being considers and analyzes his or her belief contents consciously and neutrally, then he or she does nothing to impair his or her belief. He or she only looks at it and analyzes it without a thought in mind that he or she wants to free himself or herself from it. Through the conscious and neutral looking at it and analyzing of the belief content, however, many things and facts will be recognized which does not agree with the reality and its truth. Consequently, on the other hand, the reason for it will be sought, which is conspicuously recognized as not consistent with the reality and its truth. If this is done consciously and neutrally, then more facts of the reality and its truth will be steadily gathered, which leads to the fact that more and more fallibilities in the belief become recognized, resulting in a preponderance of the facts with regard to reality and its truth. Thereby, these come more and more to the forefront of the thought world and feeling world, as well as of the intellect and rationality, while the belief and its false content get more and more into the background and slowly ebb away. Thereby, the belief ultimately vanishes completely, and the human being consciously begins to live in the world of the reality and its truth, and in complete freedom from belief enslavement. So since we're now learning and practicing the ways of positive neutral thinking consciously, what unconscious factors play a role in reforming the thinking from the wrong kind to the right kind, and what changes are occurring in the brain? So I had these questions to Christian Frenner, and I sent them to him, and he responded, and here it is. Derek, and isn't it through the conscious and neutral looking at and analyzing of the belief content that we are able to find ways of solving the atrophy that occurs in the brain? Christian replied, yes, but not consciously. For example, we cannot deliberately change the structures in our brain, but this is occurring automatically based on our mode of thinking and behaving. The motto theory will hardly have any substantial effect, quite contrary to practice. Derek, namely physically or chemically, does it have to do with synapses connections between the neural networks in our brain? In other words, to create an attitude against it would be to create new neural pathways through positive neutral thinking, yes? Christian replied, yes. So, Derek says, and isn't positive neutral thinking using the might of our thoughts to consciously create new attitudes, which are neurologically new synapses connections, new neural pathways, and new receptor sites in our brain that facilitate logical, cognitive thinking, as well as the other high values that we learn in the spiritual teaching? And Christian replied, yes, it's an ongoing process, at least as long as a person is deliberately working at this learning process, such as we are here. So, how does the creation energy teaching change affect the brain? So when the human being begins changing his or her thinking to a positive neutral kind, these new thoughts, attitudes, create new synapses connections and form new neural networks and pathways, creating new receptor sites in the brain for the new thoughts of positive neutral thinking / information, which creates new patterns of being or living for the human beings, while the old receptor sites are starved from being fed by the old belief and behavior patterns and from the attention of the human being. This process is all done automatically and unconsciously while the human being is striving upward in his or her evolution. So, nourishment for the body and for the consciousness, and foods that help promote neuroplasticity in the brain. So here's a little list: cold water fish, cold pressed olive oil, nuts, and coconut oil, supplementing with omega-3 fatty acids, just to name a few, can promote neuroplasticity in the brain. And then, of course, for the pineal gland, you have, yogurt, probiotics of all kinds, cereals, fruits, and nuts, as well as chamomile tea and others. So cognition and recognition of reality versus belief and believing. Excerpts from page 459, Goblet of the Truth. 231, sorry. Truth is that all cognitions and revelations permanently change their forms in this wise, in that an achieved truth always brings with it further factors that must be researched and fathomed, and logically leads to new cognitions, through which the truth deepeningly widens itself and consciously becomes increasingly, relatively, absolutely, fully developed. The truthfully truth of all truth, the creational truth of the laws and recommendations, thus always remains the same in the depths of its core, does not change, and is not subject to any developmental change. But to reach this core, you humankind of Earth, must begin at the lowest level of the truth cognition and slowly work yourselves deeper and deeper into the truth, layer by layer, step by step, level by level, through which your truth cognition will steadily widen, and it is through our thinking that we can then perceive the truth of things, the real truth, the actual truth, and correctly work in harmony with it in a creational wise. The truth of anything is naturally evident within reality, but it is our job, like students in school, to recognize and correctly interpret the life according to the truth of reality. And it is actually as it actually is, and become in harmony with it, so that the prevailing forces in our lives are that of our own creational might and power of our consciousness, and not something external or unsubstantial as belief is, which can't bear any fruit. So the rest is left for discussion.
Okay, so true friends, and this is from a contact report with talk. Can everyone hear me good, clear? So it's Saturday, December 3rd, 2016, and 51 prerequisites to a true friendship based on Spoth's teachings. That's what I'm going to be going over today. Billy's only true friends were his parents and the Pliaran who visited him. This is all contained in this contact report. People at the Semyasi Silver Star Center are a type of friendship that is, basically better than acquaintance, and it has benefits. So everyone wants to have a true friend, yet it is rare to see. Friendship advice is mentioned throughout the creational teachings by Billy besides here. You can actually search it in the question answer. Canada FIGU has good stuff about that. Future Mankind, tons of stuff. Goblet of Truth. Okay. Oh, let me do that. Okay. True friendship. There's 51 requirements, and that's what I'm going to go over today. So there's a lot more in that contact report, but just sticking to this part really. So mutual iniga, which the translation, I'll just clarify, this translation in this contact report I have is DeepL, so it's pretty rough, and some of the words like are obviously wrong to like repeat the same word. So instead of intimacy, I looked up the German words, and FIGU dictionary said deep, and for this one, and Vertrautheit was confidentiality or familiarity. Google Translate used familiarity, which was also similar. But so just disclaimer here, take everything with a grain here, grain of salt, and go back and study it for yourself. And these are just summarizing, very, it's not exact, perfect, of what it says in that. So be sure to go read the document. All right. Everything can be discussed reasonably. So 2 points. I just kind of put them all into 2 per slide. 6 or 51. Confidential information must never be shared to others. Trust continues despite long breaks in contact. So like you wouldn't be sharing that any information just because you stop talking to them for a while, you still keep that lifelong friendship going. All right, never lie about the other's behavior, but tell both good and bad when needed. So, just like, some people will just be like, oh yeah, everything you're doing great, just lie when you're thinking that, they actually, you need to be honest with your friend. You're here to help each other. Differing views and loud arguments are okay, but not insulting. Don't be mean, and don't turn into a big fight. All right. An agreement that mistakes are always forgiven. So basically, it's just implicitly, you know that if you make a mistake, your friend's gonna forgive you. That's just how it is. Tolerance and a desire for honest, correct criticism. So, like you ever have a friend who doesn't want to ever hear be criticized at all, you know what I mean? But the true friendship, you are able to criticize each other because you both want to grow and learn and value each other's opinions. Personal secrets are okay to not share and should not be forced. Same with lovers. So you don't have to be a completely open book. It's okay to have secrets. True, good, honest friendship means not pretending to be positive in actions. So, kind of like being honest, and you want to show your behavior to be honest as well, not just the words. So each friend knows how the other thinks and what feelings affect them. So, you're considerate about certain things and take that into account when you interact with them, how they act, and what can cause them to feel good or bad, things like that. Togetherness is important, but not always needs to do everything together. Basically, I've had friends like that. It's just like, why are you they get jealous if you're hanging out with someone else or something like that. So, you want to be able to accept that it's okay to let your friend go and do other things and things like that and have their alone time and all that. So, these are my own words mostly here, like pretty much all these I summarized it and changed some of the words, but I tried to keep as much as I could in here as long as it wasn't too long, too wordy. So be there for each other in hard times and need. So whenever the person needs your support, and they call you, reach out, you're available, you respond back. You have to if you're too busy, you at least respond somehow, try to help. Always can rely on each other. And also these are mutual. So like you want to like have that friend be that way for you and you be that way for them as well. So always can rely on each other, build up, motivate, assist, and support in existence and life. So yeah, I mean, just like that support thing, really helping each other out, and just it's not just to have someone to hang out with and do fun things with. This is a very helpful thing to evolution. Okay, required for the friendship to grow and deepen bond, sincerity, attention, and cultivated care. So yeah, just you really want to make it a priority, this, the friendship, and truly care about them. Harsh, loud, and enlightening conversations can happen as long as there is calm and no violence. So it's a physical aggression, abuse type things, just keep it still calm, but you can still get a little loud, there's a happy middle there. Differing views and stuff can be accepted and you work it through it. So, all right, show loving gestures, attentive words, small gifts, but not let it be Betzugung, attestation, testimony. So that one was a little confusing because don't give a testimony. And it's just meaning like don't like make it like the reason, like you're proving your friendship with gifts. Testimony is kind of like proof and stuff. So don't overdo it. Equal rights and duties while considering special abilities of each other are required. So you take that into consideration. This person can help you with this and this person can help you with that better in the friendship. You don't like expect something for someone that they can't do. All right. No lies to each other or to protect the friendship. For example, in court cases, since these lies would burden and destroy this friendship. And if you have to lie to keep a friendship good, then it's not a true friendship at all. Empathy for each other is required. Pretty straightforward. You care about what happens to them and their feelings and put yourself in their shoes. Sincere, honest friendship, love, good. Friendship, love, yes. Honest friendship, love. Yeah, because he talks about types of love other places in the material, and friendship love is a specific one that's different than romance love, romantic love. So a good, positive, and rich thoughts, feelings, as well as mutually reasonable and not abstract, intellectual, exaggerated decisions. So your decisions should be always based on these good values. And it makes intellectually exaggerated. So it means like you're really not doing what's right, just kind of going what sound like intellectually overanalyzed and not feeling based. Intellectual meaning like not caring, leaving out the feelings. All right. So 23, disputes are settled with a conflict management mediation process before they break out and a mutual consensus is reached. So that's the key here, before they break out. I think it's important that you don't want to just have to clean it up. You want to remember that in this friendship, you do not want to get into big fights and problems, right? Conflicts. Good flexibility for inevitable changes due to aging and evolution. So, people, they change interests, they change all sorts of things. I have friendship, lifelong one that, my friend doesn't expect me to be interested in the same things as him, even if we talk about him, he knows, at least I accept that he's into it, and I'll, and we're into different things, that's okay, that we used to be. And And of course, aging, like you can't do the same activities together when you certain ages and stuff like that. Whatever happens. And clear agreements only. So compromises shouldn't happen since someone is giving something up, being taken advantage of, and losing rights. So this was interesting to me. And I know when I was reading this with my dad, he was like, compromises. That doesn't make sense. But I researched the definition of compromise, and it's basically like both parties are letting something go, renouncing something, sacrificing something, and it's saying here that if it's you're losing this equality, if he's saying it's more of like a one-sided thing, but I guess when you work something out, you share viewpoints and you tend to accept things better, and instead of just having to give something up. Because I mean, if you work it out, then you might be not like forcing yourself to give something. You would change your view and you'd be like, oh, okay, I can accept a different viewpoint, and you're not forced to give up, kind of thing. You just change it up on your own or whatever. Face-to-face contact is required. Current electronics allow this when traveling or living overseas. You mentioned such as Skype and screens, monitors, and all that. And I do know that you can look at research of like facial expression improves communication. The worst is just texting. Next best is voice, and seeing the person, and then body language and stuff like that. But he didn't say why face-to-face was important, but it just makes sense to me. Of course, you can always see creation in a human's face, right? Or animal or flower, he says too. Absolutely voluntary, unlike family you're born to. Yeah, he did say you're forced into a massive in family, but completely voluntary friendship should never be forced. All right, positive willingness to support changes that are not antisocial, criminal, illegal, or life-destroying, threatening is required. Yeah, so gotta have that intention to help and be supportive. But if it is bad, you do not have to support everything your friend does. I've had that. I'd be like, wait a minute, that's not right, man. Like, that's immoral, whatever. You had to. I'm not afraid to call out a friend. Decent sense of humor is tolerated. So yeah, that's just cool. A decent. I guess he means like don't be like dark humor and inappropriate. Conscious evolution, creational laws we're all going for. All right, build up and strengthen each other. So yeah, it's pretty clear. You just help positivity that way. Kind of repeat it a little bit here. But keeping equality, so it's not like, oh, the one person is, oh, I'm so much better than you, so I should be the one to help you always, right? You want to respect each other's strengths and stuff, and let each other help when in whatever ways you can. Because I have seen one-sided friendships, especially me helping a friend, because I like to help people. But, all right, everything can be discussed anytime except personal secrets unless there's a need to. All right, so you can always talk about topics, but you can't just be like, oh, tell me your secrets and that thing you don't want to talk about. You don't want to force that. But you can talk about your secrets if you personally need to, right? 31, yep. All right, build up and strengthen each other, yet keep their equality. Okay, we just did that. It's right here. Okay, for righteousness, lifelong, and a cornerstone, loyalty. Yeah, so it's saying for the friendship to righteousness lifelong, and this is a cornerstone would be loyalty, stability, reliability, straightforwardness, steadfastness, immutability, sense of duty, discretion, and loyalty. All those good values, they're cornerstones of true friendship. All right, when differences of opinion and problems arise, process everything sensibly in thought and feeling for a mutual consensus. So yeah, just got to really, that consensus, see that we're both agreeing on someone's not compromising, kind of thing, and work out your problems. Agreement in harmonious community of mutual respect. honor, appreciation, honesty, camaraderie, loyalty, trust, and affection. Just really awesome, good stuff. Agreement, yeah. Appropriate, there's no bullying, right? It's not that kind of friendship. Appropriate, genuine commitment to mutual interests. So, I mean, I have some lifelong friends that they're not really interested in Billy Meyer. I'll talk to them about it, but we have other mutual interests, so that's okay. Mutual responsibility put into reality. Yeah, that is basically like, you're responsible in your behaviors towards each other. You're just not irresponsible. Your behaviors are very proper and you're responsible. Understanding when something is important to the other and respecting and valuing it. Yeah, pretty straightforward, just that respect for what the other person's needs are. And accept sacrifices, expenditures, renunciations, etc., but view only as related necessities, peculiarities. Yeah, so this is a little different than I guess the compromise thing, but you give your time up. I had to give a lot of time up for a friend one time this year, talking for a while. He was going through a really hard time, my lifelong friend. So it was okay. It's not like that's going to be daily long calls for a long time. I was able to handle it for that time, and it was okay, even though I gave a lot of myself, but it was all right. All right, willingness to invest financial resources only if not for criminal or wrong purposes, which if those purposes are concealed from the friend, then a memory of it and lack of trust would never dissolve. That was interesting. I would say could never get that trust back. Wow. So yeah, really important to not be deceived by a friend with your money for criminal purposes. So no false statements for or against the friend in outside disputes, court proceedings, foreign conflicts, etc. Must be an effective friend to self and a fellow human. So that's pretty clear. Be a friend with yourself, that's a good one. A friendship, altruism, empathy, tolerance, willingness to help, etc. is required. Prove dignity in their own way through respect, honor, and appreciation for each other. So each person proves this dignity. And mistakes are understood and explained in a teaching form to allow correction. And it's okay to point out mistakes to your friend. So no such thing as a perfect friend. Same with a male or female friend. No expectations for everything to be done correctly, always. Mistakes are okay. Recognize and appreciate good qualities. Be lenient with mistakes since they are needed for learning, right? That's just something I'm always trying to remember. It's okay. Just try not to repeat the mistake. That's all, that's the point. Common interest, regular communication of personal views, which are respected, discussed, and corrected if needed. Yeah, so there's those long breaks, but you can always resume communication when you can. And that's okay. Talk about things in nice ways. It should not be a problem to give needed advice using courage in a real friendship, even if not asked for. So, that's the one thing, and Billy says, you only give advice if it's asked for, except in a true friendship. And error is pointed out sensitively and help is offered. So you don't want to be harsh about it, but you point it out nicely and offer help. Not just criticize, oh, you messed up, you're bad. That's usually what we feel from people, the criticism. Stand together through thick and thin, except if against honor, law, dignity, the protection of human life. Laws are violated in a criminal way. Kind of like that other thing, you support as long as it's not breaking the rules. And he's used that quote, through thick and thin. good, true, and valuable friendship with 2 or more people is like a single consciousness in multiple bodies. Now that was pretty cool. I was like, oh, wow. I hear him talk like that about that, things like that. So yeah, that oneness kind of experience. Much more in the contact report than what I was putting here. And so I think I mentioned a little bit, Billy's only true friends and his other types of friends pretty much was the Plenarin and stuff. His parents different talks more about it, different types. And they talked about Facebook, how bad people can be with these, these friend lists. They're not true friends, True friendships are extremely rare, he said. And here's a good quote: true, genuine, real, and good friendships, as well as philanthropic comradeships, respectively, sympathy, connectedness, comradeships, and other righteous social relationships and bonds are a great enrichment in life and contribute a tremendously huge amount to the quality of life and thus also to staying agile and vital in old age. So it's a really good thing to do. And those are the types that, a couple of the types he's talking about that are actually good, like what he has at the center and stuff with people. References, there's a contact report. I can put the link in the chat. Anyone can actually view this later if they want. I can get the link out. And this is my sources for some of the words. So